Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's live. If you are in game right now, make sure you're in the theater. We've got some energy flying everywhere with the popcorn. If you have any questions, throw them in the YouTube live chat directly or in the comment section on Twitter. And let's keep it farmer friendly. Let's be nice to one another. And yeah, let me bring up Luke.
Hey everybody, happy to be here today. And yeah, thanks so much for joining the AMA today. So this is a fun one because we're going to answer some questions. We're going to go into some of the details we're working on again, like normal. And also, I think what I want to kind of focus on today when we go into like some of the content of this AMA is we're going to talk about emissions, and we're going to talk about like more of the tokenomics and get into the nitty gritty. Like I kind of want to walk you through the flows, and I'll actually bring up a chart later in this AMA on basically how our task board works, how we think about like the long term of pixels. We've been saying some more controversial things lately, and we love being contrarian. We love kind of explaining to you guys how we like to think about things and what the future of pixels looks like. So we're going to dive into that, like a lot of the task board nitty gritty stuff today. We're going to do some of it live, where I'm just going to kind of walk you through and like build out some charts and some flows and kind of explain to you guys what's going on with that. I've prepped a little bit, but yeah, we'll also leave some room for some questions as well too. So yeah, we'll talk about task board. We'll talk about all the nitty gritty. We'll go basically a deep dive again into tokenomics today and kind of explain to you like what the future looks like over the next 6 to 12 months and how we think about things. So yeah, any housekeeping we want to get through before we start to dive into this?
I don't think so. I'm just, I'm going through monitoring some questions, pulling them aside. So maybe, I'm trying to think like, what are community things upcoming? We've got Pixel Chickens party on Friday. That's about it. Yeah. Why don't you kick it off? I will pull aside some good questions and we will dive into those after.
Amazing. So yeah, there's a lot of comments on the task board, and I'm even seeing it in the live chat right now. So I would say the task board and like all of this token
Yeah.
distribution we're doing when it comes into the game is the number one thing that we care about when we're solving out Web3 gaming. And this is probably the biggest piece of tech that we're building out. I made some controversial statements over the last little bit, which I think you guys will start to understand as we dive into this a little bit more today on what we mean by this kind of stuff. So Web3 gaming is such an exciting area to be building in because there's so much new stuff that needs to get built out. And there's so many things that people don't really know what will work and what won't work inside of Web3 gaming. For us, we think gameplay is a really crucial part to building out a Web3 game. We think it's maybe about like 70% of the problem set. There is so much more to dig into when you think about building a Web3 game that works. And a lot of it is through this task board system that we have right now. So we're going to keep adjusting the task board over the next couple of weeks. But honestly, task board adjustment will be something that is done live for the next like 5 years of Pixels, basically. And we'll kind of dive into how we view like our next 3 to 6 months, our next 12 months, and our next like 2 to 3 years as well. And we'll start to talk about some of the other things that we're thinking about when it comes to using the Pixel token and the next initiatives that we're doing. Like, for example, we'll dive into this a little bit. I've been anti-staking for a long time, but we'll actually probably start to introduce more incentives to stake inside of the ecosystem moving forward. And I think this will probably come in the next 3 to 6 months, maybe even a bit sooner. So there's cool things like that that we'll start adding, and we'll kind of explain to you guys the thought process, what we're thinking about behind it, and why we want to do these things. And then also kind of explain to you guys the future of the game and what we're thinking about as well too. So if you notice, we made some really big score changes in the last like couple of days. We started experimenting with increasing VIP rewards actually. So that's one thing that you might notice when you're in the task board right now. There's tasks that have much higher values than did before. Like you might see some pixels tasks that give out 5 pixel, 10 pixel, like much bigger rewards. These are actually VIP and landowner specific tasks. So some cool stuff there. We're going to start tweaking this even more. And we'll kind of explain to you guys why we're doing this and the thought process behind this. But here, let me pull up. Here, 1 second. Let me pull up this tab here. And we'll just kind of go into it now. So yeah, I just started quickly putting this together. And we'll start to explain everything here. But I think first, when we start to talk about this kind of stuff, we need to kind of explain to you guys the emission structures of the Pixel token, because we talk about tokenomics a lot. We actually probably haven't talked about tokenomics in like about a month and a half. I think we last talked about emissions, all of this kind of structure, about like the time of the TGE, when we had to first come into like explaining this to you guys when we dropped the white paper, all of that kind of stuff. So just want to reiterate kind of what's going on here, because even when we're monitoring social media, things like this as well too, we are like we're seeing some of the comments here, and I see like some scared tweets every now and then about like unlocks, and I kind of want to explain to you guys like what those actually are and how we use these unlocks as well too. So we have the pixel token, right? We have all this pixel token in like one giant pool, but we don't actually have access to all of these tokens at once, right? Really what happens is we get unlocks every single month, and these unlocks are going back to the community. So every single month we get an unlock of about 28 million pixel. I think it's like 28,333,000. You can go and look into tokenomics. It's all transparent, it's visible, and it's actually vested on chain too. If you're an on-chain sleuther, or like a wallet sleuther, you'll actually be able to look on chain and see these tokens being vested and getting claimed every single month. These are what these lockups are. So right now, when you look at the tokenomics, there are about 28 million pixel getting unlocked every single month that go to ecosystem rewards. There's about, I think it's about 10 that goes to the team treasury. And then there's a small advisor portion unlocking right now. I think it's to the realm of like 3 million pixel a month. So here, let me add that too. Let me try to get these shapes up. Suddenly I don't have access to shapes here, which is going to be an issue actually.
Is it that little to the left, bottom left?
No, this menu option just disappeared.
Oh.
Okay, but yeah, I have enough to go off of here, but this would be
Can you copy paste?
Yeah. So yeah, we have 10 million pixel, and then yeah, there's 3 million pixel every single month coming to advisors. I think the actual number is, I think it's 3125. So if you look at the actual split of the tokens, most of them are going to users. This 10 million team treasury, we actually don't touch. It just stays there. It's basically just to give us a padding of pixel in case we need it. But we actually haven't touched treasury much at all. And then this 28 million pixel is the rewards that are coming out to you guys in this task force system that we have. So when you look at this 28 million pixel, we actually break it down into pools. And this is one change that's going to be coming pretty soon, actually. So right now, we have one pool of pixel. So most of this pixel inside of that 28 million every single month, it's in this one, let's call it the play to earn pool. We actually don't fully distribute all of the play to earn rewards or all of this 28 million pixel every single month. We'll start to scale that when we have some of the things that we'll get into later, when we feel a bit more comfortable with it. What we're looking at when we think about long-term sustainability in the ecosystem is we want to basically be matching all the pixel coming into the ecosystem with basically all of the pixels that's getting spent inside of the game. So it's a loop there, right, that we have to be thinking about in the long term. And we're not quite there yet, but actually our metrics on top of pixel burn right now are quite good. And yeah, we don't have that long to go, actually. I think we burned something like 6 million pixel in the last 30 days, something like that. I'll verify the number and maybe post it publicly in the next like, a couple hours right after this AMA. And we'll start to dig into that kind of stuff. But yeah, we have a play to earn pool right now, right? We have 28 million pixel that gets vested every single month into this play to earn pool. And that is the pool that's getting distributed to the users inside of our game right now. Everybody right now is sharing one pool. What we're about to add is a separate pool. So instead of just having one pool of tokens that get distributed to all users, we're about to create two pools. And it's going to change the way that you earn pixel quite drastically, actually. So we're about to split these pools into a free-to-play pool and into a landowner/VIP pool. So what does that actually mean? So basically, if we have two pools here of all the ecosystem rewards that we're giving out, that means that these pools don't touch each other. So we have basically reserved some amount of pixel just for free-to-play players, and we've reserved some amount of pixel just for VIP and landowners. Now, when you come to the task board, we have this really cool algorithm in the back end, and we're about to make it better and better and smarter on determining who we give pixel to. So essentially, right now, if we just have this one pool, everybody draws from the same pool. We can only give out so much pixel per month. There is a max cap. This max cap is the 28 million pixel per month that we're able to give out to our users in the form of rewards, incentives, all this kind of stuff. And everybody is drawing from the same pool. So effectively, what does that mean? When there's more players, that actually means that there's less pixel per player in each of these pools. So that becomes an issue when there's bad actors inside of the ecosystem in particular, right? When there's a lot of bots, when there's a lot of multi-accounters, all this kind of stuff, they're actually taking away from this pool from all the other people who fall into the buckets that we want to be distributing tokens to. Now, the issue with this is a lot of the work that we're trying to do, I keep saying this word, all we care about is efficient reward distribution. And that is quite inefficient when we're giving out tokens to the wrong users. What we actually want to be thinking about in the long run is how can we get tokens to users who use it in the game, who then eventually send tokens back to Pixel so that we can start to redistribute the ecosystem and that we can actually start to like build up community treasury as well. So the community treasury is actually building quite significantly now. I think there's something like 5 million pixel inside of the community treasury, and we'll start to dig into that too. But just note that it's a flow. So as we start to get the task board smarter, the change that we're about to make in the next, I think it's in the next week, it's not going to be too far from now, is we're splitting up the pools of Pixel into 2 different pools. So there's going to be a free-to-play pool, and there's going to be a VIP pool. So what is this going to mean for you as a player? Basically, this means that the free-to-play rewards inside of the game and ecosystem, they're going to be limited. So if there are a lot of bots coming into this ecosystem, or if there's a lot of like cyber attackers, bad actors, basically people who don't own land or who haven't purchased VIP, their share of the Pixel rewards is actually going to start to decrease. And when we start to separate these pools, basically, if there's abuse inside of this pool, it doesn't affect the rewards given out to the VIP and landowner pool because they're completely separate. Pretty cool, right? So a lot of the work that we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks is kind of figuring out what is the right ratio of this pool. And to be completely honest, I think in the long run, we're probably going to start to shrink this more and increase this more because VIP or land ownership is actually a really good signal and a really good way to basically have us combat people who are abusing the system, right? And it's more efficient for us too. We basically want to be giving out rewards to the people who are going to be staying inside the ecosystem for a long time. And if you purchase VIP, then we think you're going to stick around for a bit longer. And that's advantageous for both of us, right? We give out more rewards to people who like the game more. We give out less rewards to bots and multi-accounts and all this side of things. And it helps in incentive alignment. So then that's kind of phase 1 of this. The next kind of stuff that we're working on is going to be really cool too. So eventually, we're actually going to get both of these a bit more targeted as well. So we might decrease the VIP and landowner pool at some point, then start to increase pools for things like 100 plus skill level. So it might shrink the VIP landowner pool slightly. So the rewards that are just given to people who meet this criteria might shrink. But if you're a VIP or a landowner and you're a part of this 100 skill level pool in this group, you're going to start to get more rewards too. So basically what this means is like all these people who start to fit all of these categories, their rewards start to increase, right? And the goal on our end over the next like 6 to 12 months is basically creating like dozens to hundreds of these different types of pools. So we want to create pools for basically anything that we think will be good inside of the game and ecosystem. So it might be someone who like has a 100-day pet streak and we start getting out more rewards for them. And these are all hypothetical, but this is the kind of stuff that we're thinking about all the time. Maybe it's something like only farms scarets. Maybe it's something like started a guild. Maybe it's something like joined a guild. And the cool thing is when we start to dig into this too, we can actually start creating sub pools inside of these. So instead of just joining a guild inside of this pool, we might even say, you know, you joined a guild and you farmed on a guild land. We start to increase your pixel earnings too. And I don't know, are people understanding and getting this? Because there's some really, really interesting stuff when we start to do this. Basically, what we can do is we can actually, not just through gameplay, but through rewards, fine tune the behavior that we want inside of our ecosystem. And the whole goal of this is basically making the ecosystem as big as possible. So why do we want to start fine tuning the rewards? Because when we give out rewards, it goes to users, right? And users, they have options, right? They can do whatever they want with these rewards. It's really up to you. And that's the cool part about Web3. We don't judge what you do with these rewards. It's up to you. It's your token. It's ownership. We love that part about Web3. Sometimes people choose to sell the tokens, right? That is your choice. You're totally allowed to do that. And that's a part of the interesting part of the Web3. It's up to you. We have no say over what you do with the rewards that you give. But then sometimes users like to spend rewards on gameplay that we offer. And the gameplay is obviously the most crucial part to building out a sustainable ecosystem. And it's our job as Pixels to make sure that we give you guys a compelling game to actually want to use these tokens that we give to you. But then also when we think about the reward structure, we like to think a lot about how can create incentive structures for the users inside of our ecosystem who actually want to be using the token inside of gameplay. That's kind of our end goal, right? We want to give you rewards to actually use inside of the game to, actually have a fun game and a vibrant ecosystem. So for us, gameplay is a very important part, right? Because it closes a loop. So when you guys spend tokens or pixel inside of the game, what happens to it? There's two things that happen to it right now. We actually have an 80-20 split on where the rewards go. So some rewards, they go to, here, let's get this here. Some rewards, they go to a community treasury, and then some rewards go back into the ecosystem. So right now, 80% split into the community treasury, and it's a 20% split back into the ecosystem. This community treasury, it is the community's tokens. It's not Pixels. We don't control this treasury. It's out of circulating supply. It's essentially right now just sitting there. And we don't plan on opening governance around this treasury for about 12 months because it just takes time to figure this out. And there's some other things we want to help facilitate. The Pixels team will basically help facilitate this initial governance structure. It's really not up to us. Like, we don't control the treasury. We don't control any of the governance, but we'll help start facilitate that because somebody needs to kind of kickstart it off in order to help, create a good use of this community treasury. But yeah, in 12 months roughly is when we're going to start to open up this community treasury for you guys to do what you want with it. Now, the community treasury, again, it's really up to you guys to decide what you want done with this. We expect to see like some community-led initiatives formed around this treasury. Like, for example, there are a lot of really great ecosystem tools inside of Pixels, and you might choose to fund them. For example, we know that a lot of you guys love tools like Pixels Tips or Tribally. And this is actually the community's job now in the long run to kind of fund what they want to be seeing inside of the ecosystem. Now, again, when we think about ecosystem, Web3, all of this kind of stuff, like, we want to help facilitate good actors and people who want to help the ecosystem grow, because that's going to be best for like the entire ecosystem, best for Web3, best for all of us. Because I think all of us here inside of Pixels who come to the AMAs, we join these sessions, like, we want to see Web3 get better, right? That's the really cool part about being in Web3. We're all really early to it. It's a time when we actually all get to influence what the future of Web3 looks like, and not just the future of Web3, but gaming, of consumer applications, and all of us in general. Like, you get to be a part of like kind of history in a way, which is an exciting time to be. If you don't want to participate in any of the community governance or anything like that, you don't have to. We want to make sure that it's set up in a way where it's very easy to participate. It's very easy to understand. Some of my complaints with community governance inside of Web3 right now is it's just very cumbersome. It takes a lot of time to figure out. It's not so easy to stay involved. I think some Web2 games actually don't do a bad job at this. Like, for example, RuneScape puts key votes up for their community to decide on. I really like their governance system, and that might be a system that we go down. We'll start to collect feedback in the next few months on like how we should run this, how it should go. I like the idea of gradual decentralization, where maybe it's us guiding the community a little bit on things that we might think work well for the community to decide on and vote on. we'll play this by ear with you guys and kind of figure out what you guys want with this. But really, it's not our choice at the end of the day what happens inside of this. But yeah, the other thing that happens with tokens inside of your gameplay that you're using inside of Pixels, so when you purchase things like VIP passes, all of this kind of stuff, it actually goes back into the ecosystem rewards. And this is where things get interesting. And this is why we talk about sustainability all the time, and why I'm of the proponent that, or I'm of the mindset that if you start to build out a game that people love, they enjoy, they want to use the tokens in, your game and your ecosystem becomes a bit more bear resistant. So right now, this 28 million pixel, whether you like it or not, we like to view this as user acquisition budget. And the user acquisition budget that we get inside of our ecosystem is tied to like the real value behind the token. There's no way around that, right? So, if the market's performing really well, then that essentially means this 28 million pixel goes a lot further in acquiring new users. And it is somewhat market dependent there, right? But the cool thing about you guys using the token in gameplay and the fact that 20% goes back is the ecosystem reward pool actually grows every single month the more the token's getting used. So really this 28 million pixel, if we start burning, let's maybe go in some of the real numbers. If we start burning or actually getting more pixel used, I think it was about 4 million pixel that goes into community treasury now. And I'll verify these numbers, but like, let's call these hypotheticals. So these are close to the actuals right now. That means about like 2 million pixel is actually going back into the ecosystem pool. So really we had 28 million pixel coming from this giant pool that we get every single month, but the pool is actually now 30 million, if that makes sense, right? So if we actually start increasing the spend inside the game per month, so let's call this 6 million pixel here. We start increasing the spend per pixel inside of the ecosystem each month. Like if we get this up to something like 28 million pixel, that's more pixel coming into community treasury, something like, I'm not doing the math, but something like 20 million there, 8 million there. This pool actually becomes something more like 36 million pixel, right? Every single month. And the more that this increases, the more rewards that we're actually able to give back to the users. And if we actually have a good spot when it comes to monetization inside of the game, then this 28 million pixel coming in, or whatever price of the pixel that is effective for getting rewards, starts to matter less because we have more and more to give back, basically. And that's kind of the key tech that we're building out. It's like, how do we find the best users inside the ecosystem? How do we create the best pools that enable people who actually want to be using the token inside of the game to basically give the token back so we can start doing even more user acquisition? It's some cool stuff. And then the hope is, if you guys are a part of the community treasury, maybe when you start doing some of the governance, you decide, hey, we think Pixels is doing a great job. Like we want to actually give out some of this back into the ecosystem reward pool too, because Pixels has a pretty good idea of how they can grow the ecosystem even more. So maybe there's some community initiative where every month we're sending 10 million pixel back into the pool. But that's a cool part about this community treasury side of things too. Like if Pixels is not doing a good job of efficient reward distribution, maybe somebody else is. And we're actually going to start doing some interesting stuff where we have one game right now, right? We're going to start doing some cool things here where, here, let's say Pixels gameplay here. Eventually, the Pixels gameplay that you see right now won't be the only gameplay that you're able to participate in inside of its ecosystem. So, for example, we might end up releasing another mobile game. And these are the kinds of initiatives that we're going to be starting in the next like 6 to 12 months. We'll probably get the ball rolling in the next 3. We're transparently like raising a bit more funding, which will basically give us the firepower to start working on these initiatives, scaling the ecosystem, not just vertically when it comes to the depth of reward distribution, spend per user inside of this game, but also horizontally too. So with more games coming into here as well. So users will actually get more and more opportunities to use the Pixel token inside of a bigger ecosystem. Let's say like one of the things we've been tossing around is like a companion app for pets. And if we create a really fun game around that that uses the pixel token, there's similar effects that happen with this. So maybe the Pixels gameplay isn't monetizing as well, but because there's a second game inside of this ecosystem, there's also more opportunities for more net burn inside of the ecosystem and for more pixel to come back into the ecosystem rewards. So that's some of this cool stuff that we're working on. Now, some other stuff that we've been tossing around too is we talked about staking a little bit. I've been anti-staking for a long time, and I don't think the way that a lot of Web3 projects do staking is how we want to do it. But I could see us actually introducing some element of staking when it comes to in-game rewards. So Pixels, you're not getting ROI. You're not getting like passive income. Like, we don't do that. That is not Pixels. You're playing a game. You are in a gaming ecosystem, and we really, yeah, we're just not about like any equation when it comes to ROI. So staking, we don't like staking for reasons like that. It gets messy. It's not the route that we want to go down. We don't actually even like the financialization aspect of gameplay. We like reward distribution. We like user acquisition. And the rewards and the earnings are part of the core gameplay loop. We love that. I love earnings inside of the game. When you think about it from, I play the game and I'm getting ownership over the assets I get inside of the game, and I can do whatever I want with them. It's not this in-game currency that's stuck inside of this one game. I have different options for what I do with this currency. If I so choose to spend it inside of the Pixels ecosystem, that's great. But if you want to do something else, then you're allowed to do whatever you want with this token, right? When we start to think about staking, there are some rewards and like some interesting things too. A lot of what we're thinking about inside of Pixels is, how do we create more and more reasons to use a Pixel token? And there's an interesting tie-in with gameplay and staking that we're going to start experimenting with, essentially. So we'll give more and more details over that, but just know that's kind of the stuff that we're thinking about, where when we think about staking, it's coming from this ecosystem pool. It's going to be tied to gameplay. It'll be tied to task board. And we don't want to make this game a whale-oriented game either. There's different people inside of the ecosystem that play different roles, right? And if we ever do staking, it'll be a small portion of all the different types of users that we're trying to basically create incentive structures for, right? So if you look at this, like the free-to-play users are part of the ecosystem. People who get high skill level are part of the ecosystem. People who love the pets game, people who like participate in certain parts of the game loops that we have. They're all important personas inside this ecosystem, and people who have a lot of tokens that they don't know what to do with, like that actually might be an interesting persona for us to build incentive structures around too, right? So when we think about this, we think about it from a very holistic standpoint around the ecosystem. And this is some of the core tech that we're building out. So a lot of what we need to do also is like getting better data on all of you guys to figure out who the best players are. And a lot of our experimentation is going to be doing basically tons of live experiments on, is this actually a good criteria for a user inside of our game that leads to people who are more likely to be actually using the Pixel token inside of the gameplay or inside of the ecosystem. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of the metrics that we look at, right? At the end of the day, we want to give out tokens to people who want to be using the tokens inside the ecosystem. And it's our job to kind of figure out how to do that. So the task board right now, it is not perfect and it's very, very dumb, right? Like I can erase all of this and we basically only have one pool right now, but we're about to introduce the second pool, the VIP and landowner pool. And then the next thing that we're working on basically is all these other pools. So we'll start to be more transparent on what they look like. And honestly, this might be something interesting to have voted on in the long run too. Once we start to get more data on, what the actual impact of giving rewards to these types of users leads to. So yeah, if you look at this, it's funny how complicated it is, right? And that's why when we say that gameplay is a small portion of what a Web3 game is, it's true, right? Gameplay is really important. You need compelling reasons to use a token inside of an ecosystem inside of Web3. But it's also so much depth and nuance when it comes to all this user acquisition too. So yeah, if we have more questions, I can go into some of this kind of stuff. But yeah, this is basically the core tech that we're working on at Pixels. And I just kind of wanted to go over that quickly because yeah, we hear your complaints on the task board, and this is actually the exact stuff that we're working on very diligently and probably the most important stuff that we're working on at Pixels. This is how we go from like, however many DAU that we have. It's probably like, I think we're at like 700,000 daily active addresses. probably like 500,000 real daily active users. This is how, one, we get that ratio of real daily active users to real daily active addresses higher. We're actually not doing too bad with that. But this is how we kind of close that gap even more. And this is also how we start to identify the users who actually like this game and increase the user acquisition firepower that we have too. So other Web3 founders, take this as a note because this is stuff that you're gonna have to build. And if you don't have a live Web3 game, yeah, you can't really start experimenting with this until you have something live. But if you look at all the amazing companies that were born in Web2, they did some element of this, except they did this with advertising. Now, the cool thing about Web3 is we don't run any ads at Pixels. Instead, we like to get direct to the source and give the right incentive structures while cutting out advertising middlemen. And it saves us money because instead of having to give all this money to Google, to Facebook ads, to Instagram ads, to TikTok ads, what we can actually do is just kind of cut out the middleman and create the incentive structures inside of our own ecosystem. So yeah, I'm sure this probably brought up hundreds of questions, but I wanted to run you guys through that because this is the cool stuff to me. And this is the key tech that Pixels is building out. Like this is why Pixels is performing well, because this is the kind of stuff that we focus on, the growth tech, the UA, all of this. And this is part of the active experiment that you're a part of. So we hear your complaints. And this is exactly the stuff that we're trying to fine tune. So when we say we're fine tuning for the next 3 to 6 months, it's all of this. And then chapter 2 is obviously going to make some pretty big changes to gameplay as well.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for going through all of that. Before we continue on to questions, I did just want to address, I've seen some not so friendly messages, some slightly racist messages, even in the live chat. Please keep it farmer friendly. Farmer friendly is a term that we coined almost 2 years ago now to kind of represent the kind of culture at Pixels. And that means that everyone's welcome here, regardless of their background or even their views and opinions. So when you're communicating, obviously, we want you guys to have great conversations and bring up hard topics and whatnot, but just make sure you're being respectful of one another. All right, let's dive into some questions. I feel like you went through a bunch of these already, but let's scan through and see if there's any really good ones that we want to pull out. Okay. Oh yeah, so someone asked, okay, yeah, is there any pixel burning, not just going all strategy? So no pixel is being burned. Basically, it goes into the different allocations, like just like Luke talked about. If you have more questions on it, we can revisit that again. But I know Luke just went into it pretty in detail. There's no pixel burned.
Yeah, we use burn because that's just kind of the language that's used inside of Web3. So right now, any pixel that's sent to the community treasury, it's technically out of circulation, right? Like it's just sitting there. So effectively burned right now, but then yeah, it will unlock to the community at some point, right? So again, we don't control this treasury and we're not going to. And what the community decides to do with this treasury is really up to them. Like, there might be a situation where community decides to burn this treasury. They're like, just wipe it all out. That's not up to us, but we want to guide and help you guys understand why there's some interesting reasons to be using it in other ways. But it's not under our control. So it's really up to the community on what they want to be doing with it.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I just enjoyed this. So one more avatar collection. So we have over 90 integrated. So kind of funny to me that you want more, but I completely understand. I always want more because they're really fun. We have a couple in the works. So yeah, we get a lot of requests for different ones. So, but it takes quite a long time for us to like develop the artwork and like, all of the processes and stuff. But yeah, we do have some in the works. So stay tuned for that. Okay, Luke, what items will be sold for Pixel on the market?
Yeah, so when we talk about gameplay, right? That's the kind of stuff that we're focusing on in like the next 3 to 6 months too. Like for our ecosystem work, right? We need compelling reasons for people to be using Pixel inside of the game, have like way more fun things to do there. And yeah, that's some of the core stuff that we're doing too. So there is a lot of nuance to this, right? Like I like to talk about how we view tokenomics in 2 different forms. It's the side I just went through, basically all the user acquisition strategy. And then it's the other side, like all the utility inside of the game and ecosystem too. So chapter 2 is why we're super excited about like we're very excited about chapter 2 for these reasons, because we're going to start to introduce more reasons to use Pixel. Right now, there's not much, right? Right now, you can purchase VIP, you can purchase guild shards, and then we do pet mints every now and then. It's a little bit lacking there. So when we start to release chapter 2, you're going to start to see more free to play monetization elements inside of there, where it's going to be optional. And essentially what we want the Pixel token to do is just enhance gameplay in certain areas. So things like spec upgrades, things like fun new items. Like I think we're going to introduce this new item called the Infinite Portable, which is an item that is disposable. It's like a one-time use, and you'll be able to teleport to any farm instantly that way. So we're looking for small items like that early on. And then we're also looking for other things as well too. So yeah, there's some fun stuff coming there. Like for example, in chapter 2 gameplay, there's going to be more wait times for building out certain resources. You know, you might be able to use Pixel to cut down that wait time a little bit. If you've ever played a game like Clash of Clans, that's kind of how we view our Pixel utility strategy, where free to play is essentially a funnel into like some of the larger elements of gameplay. And not everybody needs to be spending Pixel inside of a game. So note that in most free to play games, only about like 2 to 5% of users actually end up monetizing, and that's completely okay. Like we don't need every single person inside of the game to be spending a lot of Pixel, but we do want to make it available for the people who want to as well too. And games actually are not very fun if you only build a game for whales, or if you only build a game for free to play players too. You need a balance of the two. And that's a lot of what we're going to be doing with the reward distribution too. Like if you're a free to play player, we still want you in the ecosystem and we still want you there. Now the question that we're asking is like, okay, what is the right ratio of free to play rewards versus these rewards that incentivize further gameplay as well too? Because knowing that we don't need to necessarily have everybody be a net pixel spender, just, you know, the people who want to be can be, essentially, is how we like to view it. And it's kind of weird having this conversation with the community, right? Like we're literally telling you guys, hey, we want you to spend more Pixel. But again, we only want you to do it if you want to, and it's really up to you. And if you're given a reward, your reward is your reward, right? It is up to you to do what you want with it. What we want to do, and our end goal, our evil goal, is we want you to like the game enough to actually be wanting to use the token. And if the game isn't good enough, none of this works, right? If there's no reason to use the token either, and if we don't provide you opportunities to do it, none of it works. So yeah, keep giving us feedback on the gameplay, because that's the most important thing. We're still in a very early stage where the game is getting better and better. And that's an important thing to note too, right? So we know that the game isn't quite in like the best optimal form of it yet, but we've been making the game better for 2 years every single week, right? And the goal is we have these really big changes that we think are actually gonna be really, you know, helpful to the gameplay as well. We're going to continue to build out like all the features that we've been talking about, things like dungeons and caverns, exploration, more end game, all this kind of stuff. The Pixels game will keep getting better. We're actually not diverting. I think I saw a comment there actually that was really good. We don't want, yeah. No one wants a mobile game. People want dungeons, RPG elements, progression. Yes. So our core user base right now, like what I can say is the core Pixels team that is dedicated to building out Pixels and the gameplay around it. It's not shrinking. It's not changing focus. And it's actually probably going to expand slightly. What we're also going to start doing is like just running some other experiments too. So we're actually going to start targeting people who are not just these core Pixels players that love the Pixels farm game, the Stardew Valley side of things, but we're also going to see if we can start to tap into other audiences as well. So, you know, you might not want a mobile game, but there actually might be a completely different group of people who would play that more. And that's the kind of stuff that we're thinking about too. So there's actually some low touch experiments that we're going to start running. Like we'll probably start releasing and like getting out a separate team. There's prototypes through mobile apps or prototypes like other experiences that would use the token. These games, if we start building out these other games, they're going to look a lot more like Web2 games, where there might not be earnings directly associated with them early on, but they'll use the token essentially. So the thought process here is essentially, if we clone a Candy Crush and instead of you know, having you use US dollars inside of this Candy Crush, if you could just use the Pixel token that you earn through other game rewards, like that might be fun, right? So you basically don't have to spend US dollars that you work hard for. You use the Pixel token that you earn inside of this game. So some of what we think about too is like, you know, creating games that you guys already know and like that just use our token instead, and basically offering an alternative to like some of the stuff that you might be playing casually. But with a Web3 twist. And then maybe, who knows, we'll start maybe offering incentive structures around there if we have enough UA firepower for this kind of stuff too. Truthfully, what I see us doing with this kind of stuff is probably just offering install rewards. So if you install this, get through like day 2, we might give you some pixel tokens to like, download the app, do all this kind of stuff. But then normal game is just kind of Web 2 that uses the pixel token.
Okay. I'm seeing a bunch of questions about the quiz from the Binance session that we did last week, which was really fun. And thank you all for coming out to that if you did. Binance completely controlled the winner side of the quiz section of that presentation. So I would just reach out to the support team if you have any questions regarding that. Okay, when UGC approvals again. It's funny because I was literally just talking with the team earlier today about this. We have some tweaking and work we need to do before we can launch this again, which, as unfortunately comes down to team capacity as well. We do intend to lower the cost of minting UGC. I think right now it's like 800 pixel or something like that. So we'll definitely lower it, but it takes quite a bit of capacity from the team to manage it. So we'll keep you updated on that. But I don't have a firm date for you yet of when we can launch it again, but I love it. We love it. So it'll come, but yeah, I don't have a date. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see. What will you do with the bots that buy VIP? If they're a bot and they're a bot, they will be banned. It doesn't really matter if they have VIP or not. If we find people that are botting the system, they will be banned.
Yeah, so we talk about bot prevention detection a lot because it's actually one of the core issues inside of Web3 games. If you create an incentive, people are going to try to break it. And that's why we talk about this pool system a lot too, because we actually want to start creating and looking at our own data. We do this already, but we want to be looking at our own gameplay data to see who are the users who actually lead to like net ecosystem benefit. And bots are complete zero ecosystem benefit, right? Us giving rewards to bots is bad for us because it's actually less rewards that we'd be giving to real users and it stunts our growth. We're very incentivized to not allow this to happen because there's no benefit to us for it, right? When we think about the long-term sustainability of the ecosystem, again, what we want to do is we want to create reward structures for people who love the game the most. And yeah, bots they don't like the game. They actually maybe hate it because they're hurting everybody in it, right? So with VIP, we like VIP in the short term because it creates an economic barrier for bots to come into the ecosystem. If somebody was to make 1,000 accounts, they need a lot of pixel to make these accounts, right? And it creates a barrier inherently that way. So 2, the other interesting thing is like if we catch a bot that has VIP, if we catch them before they extract the amount of pixel that they would be getting from having more earnings with the VIP, we can actually make them come out in the red, and there's less of an economic incentive to bot too. So bots, it's a lot of different things there. There's like the prevention side of things. There's the economics behind it. And then there's also the gameplay associated with it too. So chapter 2, we're making these changes because also the chapter 2 gameplay is a bit less bottable as well. We think it's like very less bottable, but we're have to like work and experiment with that as well too. But again, like our end goal is giving out more rewards to the people who like pixels the most. And it's a hard task, but that's the stuff that we're most excited about. And to us, that's the biggest unlock inside of Web3 gaming. Whoever figures this out, it's not just a like good game. And it's not just a Web3 game. Like we are really trying to create like a generationally defining company here and like a new way to build out games. So the free-to-play market, the mobile market, like normal games companies, they're in trouble because a lot of their user acquisition strategies that they grew on before aren't really working anymore. And we have the opportunity here at Pixels to kind of change the way that games are made in general. I really think that this is the next evolution of gaming in the entire like industry. And this is how many more people are going to start playing games in general too. Like if you guys have been following along, there are a lot of people that play Pixels that play no other games, which is kind of cool, right? In the same way that free-to-play or mobile gaming started onboarding a lot of people who had never played games before, it's kind of the next step of this as well. Like this is how you actually get like another billion gamers to play games, in my opinion. And I mean, Heidi can speak on it too, right? Like Heidi, she's not going to be playing like MOBAs. Heidi, have you ever opened up League of Legends?
No.
Yeah, exactly. But Heidi is this crazy mobile game player, and basically, like, mobile gaming, free-to-play gaming opened up new demographics that didn't play games before, like a Heidi. And we think that Web3 games opens up another demographic of users as well too. And we think it's actually extremely competitive against Web2 games. So, like what Pixels is doing, like we're trying to be very ambitious. We're not just trying to make one Web3 game and call it quits. Like we really want to change gaming in general, and we want to build like a massive ecosystem. So again, I said like our target DAU number is Zynga topped out at like 50 million DAU. We want to hit 50 million DAU, and you kind of need more than one game in the long run to be able to do that. So expect a lot of different experiences with Pixels in like the next 2 to 5 years. We're already laying the groundwork for that now.
That's so funny. Like, okay, here's a little story. Back in university, all of the guys that lived in residence on my floor would always play League together, and it drove me nuts because they would make us late for everything because you can't pause League, right? It's like a 40-minute plus game, right? Right? Right?
Yeah.
So it used to drive me nuts. So I have a bit of a negative connotation with League because it just used to always make us late for like every event we were going to because all the guys would just sit around and play League. Oh man. Okay. More questions. Okay, if my reputation expired, if my VIP expired, will I still get the reputation? No. No. You only have it if it's active. Why no Easter event? We just didn't have time. You guys know I love doing events like this. We had like a fun one with like Steven and Todd last year, if you guys recall. Unfortunately, we just didn't get the time to implement this year because we are busy working on chapter 2. So very good reasons why. Maybe next year. We'll see. Why doesn't Heidi come in general chat anymore? I'm so sorry. I do. I try to come in. Luke and I still try to hop in. I try to go in like at least once or twice a day and like spend several minutes like chatting with you guys and all of that. But there's a lot more people in there now. So sometimes it's overwhelming. But also it's more that we probably just miss each other because there's so many questions and so much information flowing all the time. I'm going to try to spend more time in the Goose chat because that one's supposed to be chill. And if you guys ruin that, I swear. But anyways, that's the chill channel. Okay, what were some other good questions? Okay, I never get trees. So in chapter 2, there will be tree tiering and the ability to have lower tiered trees on your spec. So things are changing. Things are coming. Access to those higher tiered trees, obviously you'll need access to the NFT land. So those ones will be trickier to get, but like that's the point, there's like really fun new gameplay coming in chapter 2.
Why do you stream so much but work so little?
Oh yeah, I love this.
Famous catastrophe at this moment. Full bots, catastrophe task board, catastrophe market. What are you doing really? Yeah, so Pixels is in like a really great position where we're scaling up now, right? Yeah, things break, and when you start to get more traction, this is a pretty normal thing with startups. Like you are a part of an early project, right? We're still in like the early stages of it. What I can say is you don't work so little. It's funny because my previous life before I started doing startups and like building out Pixels, I like full-time travel for like 2 years. I worked very little then. And yeah, it's funny because people ask me what I do now, like, oh, what are your hobbies? And it's like, oh shoot, I do Pixels. Like I'm not doing anything besides this.
Farming.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have a garden now. If somebody wants to give me some advice on my broccoli, it's sprouting too early. I don't know what to do about this. It's just flowering quickly. But yeah, like literally this whole team, like they are working incredibly hard is what I'll say. We have 15 full-time team members. It's a small, lean team. We like being lean because it allows us to iterate, change things really quickly, but people look at us and they think we're this like insanely big company. The cool thing about being early into a space is small teams can disrupt huge industries. That's kind of the cool part of like tech startups and stuff like this in general. And yeah, we are a bit resource constrained in some areas, but also again, what we're trying to focus on is focusing on what we believe to be the most important parts are. So there's issues inside of the game. We're very well aware of them, and we can't fix them all in as much time as we would like. But what we're actually really trying to do here at Pixels, and like a lot of the work of an early startup team, is to figure out what are the highest leverage things that we can work on that will disrupt the industry in a way that is non-competitive. So it's interesting because this user acquisition strategy, the growth, and all this core tech is the stuff that I'm personally most interested in because I think this changes the way that games grow in a way that Web2 games will never be able to touch. So we're fine tuning a lot of this, and there's still a lot of work to do. Like, we are not claiming to have a perfect game and a perfect ecosystem now. It's a journey that all of you are on with us, and that's kind of the exciting part. So we stream because, one, the feedback loop is extremely important. Like, we try to iterate and fix things as quick as possible, and it's also kind of a different ethos that we have compared to traditional game studios. So I think some of the reason that Pixels is doing and performing well right now is because of this approach that we have, where we're not afraid to take risk. We're not afraid to like ship things early to see if they work or if they don't work. And then we get feedback from the community here too. So yeah, I would actually say streaming is probably the most important thing that we do, to get like a
Yeah.
sense of community feedback and all of this as well, because it tightens that iteration loop quite quickly, where we can go out, we can basically build something, see what resonates well with the community, and then change things quickly too. The other strategy that we could do is we could basically go dark for 3 or 4 months, do bigger releases, and like hope that we get it right. But then, yeah, you guys are missing this level of transparency
Yeah.
with us too. And believe me, not every AMA is easy to come on to. Like, I want to be giving this crazy big update every single time that we come on to AMAs, but we choose to be here every single week, regardless of if there's something good going on or if there's something bad going on, because we think it's actually extremely important to get the feedback from all of you guys on how we're doing and what we need to be changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I kind of pride myself on being pretty transparent with a lot of areas of my life. And everything Luke said is so valid. Like, the positive side of all of this is like it's so fun hanging out with you guys every week. This is like a highlight of my week. We get to like directly chat with you guys, see your feedback, iterate quickly, share what we're doing, all of those sorts of things. But then, like, I tweeted earlier on Monday that I had had a rough morning, and it was just simply like I was very overwhelmed. There's a lot going on, and it's all really good stuff, right? Like, let me be clear, like, so exciting. There's everything that's going on, but it's still a lot. Yeah. So trust me, we are working all the time. Um, but yeah, okay. Appreciate you guys all being here with us every week as well. And I think if we went dark for 3 months, it would be very, very bad.
I mean, like, this is
Um,
the kind of stuff that we're here for. Like, again, I don't feel like I'm not shy from negative comments. Like, I don't consider many things to be FUD. I think sometimes there's FUD when, like, sometimes there's people that come in and just have like bad intentions for the project and they are rude, and like that's not helpful. But like, when you guys say things like, we hate the new task board, please update the rewards, this is the kind of stuff that we're here for, because this is the direct kind of feedback that we want. Again, we always appreciate when you word things nicely. um, I wouldn't say this is like overly mean, so it's fine. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that we're here for, to get feedback on. And again, this is like, we went through like the first half of this, like, this is the exact kind of stuff that we're most interested in, like, working, iterating, and fixing.
yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see. Okay, when shard selling?
Yeah, so we're still having like some philosophical debates on how we go about this. I also saw, um, I think, yeah, we had Kagi here
Oh yeah.
talking about guild tooling too. So some of what we like to think about is like, how polished does something need to be before we release it, and like what feedback on this too. So shard selling was something I'm a bit nervous about still. I think the direction that I want to go is, we have coded into our system that we can turn off the selling of shards per guilds individually, and we probably won't do it as well. Say we have the option. So if you're a guild owner, we gave a bunch of free guild shards to. Don't screw your people over. We have the power to turn off guild shards selling temporarily per guild. So this is actually, gotta be careful how I word this. This is something that is like in other markets. Like, we're building a game and we're all focused on gameplay too. And you know, just like in terms of like pure game design, sometimes like you can maybe picture like the New York Stock Exchange as a game, right? New York Stock Exchange, if there's like shady stuff going on with specific stock, we'll turn off the selling of that stock for a little bit, right? I think you can kind of view, through gameplay, the guild shard stuff in a similar way, where 99% of the time hands off, but like if we have the right to basically stop or slow down things in the case of a bad actor, we'll turn it back on. Maybe like that guild will just need to work out like their leadership. Maybe they're like, hey, guild leader, please transfer these guild shards to that like another owner, things like that too. But like I think we're just going to primarily be hands off. So yeah, if you have feedback on the tools that we need before we go live with this, let us know. I think I want to turn this on tomorrow. We have it done and ready. So we'll probably spend some time in the guild leader chat today talking about this, what this looks like, making sure you guys are all ready for this. We want to give you guys like 24 hours to prep for this if you're a guild leader, because obviously this is a big change. Again, if you are new to the guild system and you haven't participated in it yet, tomorrow might be a good day just to like wait and see what happens. It might be a little volatile if we turn it on for like a little bit, but it's going to settle out. So just like, if it's not a feature that you feel comfortable with, I'm just going to say to you, like, you don't have to participate in it, but it might be some fun gameplay for some of you who are more into this kind of side of things. So just note that, we're giving a warning. And we'll be in the guild leader chat later today, kind of talking about this.
Okay. This is just really funny to me because they called us blondies. I'm kind of ginger. You can't really tell. Yeah, so it would be awesome to share the percentage of pixel each pool will have. Is that something we're going to be transparent about or private?
I think we should. It's just there's this hard part when you're transparently showing the rules to people. It's easier for some exploits to happen when it comes to like automation or bot behavior, but also if we can adjust these kinds of things, then it's no problem too. The ideal situation is how we build out these pools is that they're difficult to bot anyways, because they're further through game progression or they're through like non-optimal forms of gameplay. Yeah, it becomes a lot harder to bot when the gameplay is unpredictable. So chapter 2, what we're introducing is like very big changes to resource generation, and that should make the game inherently more difficult to bot. So we don't have to be so hard on like the ambiguity behind pools, and we could probably be more transparent with some of these changes as well. So I think end goal is full transparency, because that way we can actually help make you figure out what kind of gameplay you should start to focus on, and you kind of get a choice that way too. So yeah, we are creating these pools because we want to create incentives for you to go through each of these stages, right? And it's advantageous for us to have you guys know this because we want you guys to do this behavior, right?
Okay. We can just, oh yeah, I just wanted to lessen it. I love this. I have an awesome community in my guild. We talk every day, but we have no land. So someone who has a land, go hang out with this guy. Love to see it. And then yeah, there was someone else that was like, I'm a newbie. Where was that? I know you pulled it aside. I don't know. Anyways, okay. If you're a newbie, hop into Discord, hang out, find some guilds you can join in there. It'll be fun. With that, we can wrap things up today. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us, and lots of fun things are coming. We've got the Pixel Chickens event on Friday, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. Check our calendars, check Discord for your time zone. I think it's like 7 a.m. Pacific or something like that. So yeah, we'll see you then. And of course, next week and at our Twitter space. Also, I think I'm on a Twitter space tomorrow. So yep, we'll see. We'll see you guys around.
Oh,
Bye,
yeah.
guys.
One more question.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I don't know on this one, but I hear a lot.
It's an NFT trait.
Maybe just one. Maybe we do something where like we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
All right. Okay. Bye, guys.
Great. Thanks, guys.